Karibu tena. This is TV 47 Sports Extravaganza. My name is Dan Kambutua. Let's switch to matters basketball. But before we switch to matters basketball, we need to have a conversation, or rather we need to interact. I need to interact with you. Kuna ile swali la siku, so we're having a question of the day. Kuna hiyo swali la siku hapo, fans wa football. Are you happy with the football transfer? Or rather, are you happy with the football January transfer? Ilisha juzi hivi. Are you happy? Because kuna timu lazima zipigwe, kuna timu zinapigwa zinalalamika. We don't have a striker. You know who I'm talking about? Hiyo ni Arsenal. You guys mnalalamika mna striker, lakini January transfer imekuja, you guys still have the Kai Havertz of this world. We're talking about Man United, wanasema mid yetu kidogo tunatingika. But what happened when the transfer window was opened? Imefungwa. Are you happy? You as a Manchester United fan. Manchester City, we were expecting a big signing, but hakuna mtu ameingia pale a big signing. What are your thoughts on your team? Na pia timu ya mwenzako, for the case of the banter, pia unaweza ongelea kuhusu your team, msee mwenzako, rafiki yako kuhusu timu yake. Mbona hawaja sign? Kama wewe pia ni fan wa Leicester, yesterday we saw them being beaten by Manchester United 2-1 in the dying minutes of the additional time. But to switch to let us switch to matters basketball, because we need to know what does it take to develop, what does it take to make this sport equal in the map of like other countries, tulinganisha Kenya basketball like other countries, because wengi wanasema Uganda, rather South Sudan are doing better than Kenya. Such a young nation being compared to Kenya. Senegal are doing better than Kenya, or even Tanzania are doing better than Kenya. But what does it take to develop? What does it take for them to be where they are right now? And for that, we'll be speaking to Jermaine Odhiambo, who is the founder of Wima Sport. Jermaine, welcome to TV 47 Sports Extravaganza. Maybe you can give us an in-depth information about you and Wima Sports first.
Definitely a great pleasure, being here at TV 47. Thank you for having us, and having me and my colleague right here, who'll also get to tell you much more about him. Just to let you know, sports has been, I'm a sports enthusiast. Sports has been part of my life. I've benefited from sports in one way or the other, and this is through sports scholarships, where I had a chance to play with this brother of mine right here, enjoyed and have beautiful memories that we created together as we played together in our varsity team. And this has enabled me to still be around sports even after graduating, and a different area of study that I was in. And basically that led to the growth of Wima Sports, or the birth of Wima Sports, which is geared towards championing sports development. And that's what we pursue and we push, and that dream is a dream that indeed shall come true, where sports and basketball will be able to grow and flourish, and people can have a fully fledged career in sports and baskbasketball.
And you played with this guy.
Yeah, this is my teammate.
Mona kwa touchline. I understand you once coached the Eldonets Platinums.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe a brief information about you.
Yeah, basically my name is Bales. As Jermaine said, played basketball for a while. Yeah, so started all the way back. Let me say, in Kenya, the journey for a basketballer starts from, let's say, high school. That's where you get to interact with it at a higher level. So I got, again, opportunities to play with scholarships here in different universities, and got to merge with Jermaine at African Nazarene, and we basically had good times. So after graduation, you always think of what next. So transitioned into club basketball, played for ABSA. Currently now they're rebranding to, I think, a different team. And that just shows you growth in terms of how dynamic the game is getting. And then transitioning into coaching, where now I ended up going to Eldoret, getting to coach the Eldoret Platinum. It was one of the best experiences that I had, getting to coach some of the players who I played with and played against. And it just gave me that urge to look at basketball differently. The question was, how do I make sure that this talent that is here now can transition into another person, and can we build another set of generation that is going to basically take over when the generation of basketball players now that we have in the country get to sign off and say adios to the game of basketball. Yeah.
Talk about this swimmer sport and why is it associated with basketball?
At Swimmer Sports, you know, we are the core of championing sports development, and basketball being a sport, one of the sports, huge sports that are recognized in Kenya, then it's part of what we do at Swimmer Sports. And also me being someone who played basketball, that's my game. You know, charity begins at home. So it was easier for me to start championing development of basketball in Swimmer Sports. And that's what we do, and we do that in many ways. Is it sports documentaries? Is it telling stories, athlete stories? Is it letting people know about workshops and seminars structured around sports science, sports performance? Is it around psychology and psychotherapy in sports, and how mental health impacts an athlete's life? You know, we look at all these aspects that help steer athletes to the next level, because high performance sports is between your ears, which is the mind. And for you, even the word of God says the battle is in the mind. So we look at all these different aspects to position athletes and basketballers to be able to perform to the highest level. So that's our core business in Swimmer Sports.
Do you like have a special project like he does?
Yes, we do. Basically, actually, we liaise with them most of the time in terms of just providing mentorship to the young kids that we have. We've reached out and working out facets of the game in terms of, does the game of basketball only end within the four corners of the basketball court? Or from the early stages, can we basically get the mindset of this player in a sport where they basically know, as Jermaine says, that if the mental is right, then it means that the focus is always very laser focused towards what the goal is going to be for these young kids. So for us, right now we basically run an academy called Runda Ridge Basketball Academy, where we have kids ranging from as young as 5 years all the way to 23 years. And it's quite interesting that we're seeing transitions, and some of the things that Swimmer Sports does in terms of getting to that niche of, it's not just about nutrition alone, it's not about how recovery should be done, which Swimmer Sport is good at. Then how do we translate that into the normal day-to-day lives of these young athletes, so that they grow up knowing that they have to live right, maintain the right kind of mental attitude as they grow up, and hopefully when they get to that point where they're now able to make decisions, because at a young age it's very hard to determine whether this kid that is now very good at basketball will end up playing basketball. But then again, it is interesting that majority of them are staying because they're seeing now some of the interesting things that Swimmer Sport is doing in terms of just talking about sports in a different dynamic. Management, how do you prepare before the game? How do you cool off after a game? So those are some of the fundamentals that RRBA is basically leaning towards Swimmer Sports to provide. Yeah.
And there's been a lot of noise when it comes to the administration.
Yes.
The federation.
Yeah.
The president. Many people have been kicking him. Let me just use the word kicking him.
Yeah.
What is happening with the Kenyan basketball? Because just recently, I came across a post.
Okay.
Kenyans comparing Kenya with South Sudan. And someone was saying, we are miles behind South Sudan. We are miles behind other African nations. But when you guys, whatever you guys are doing in the grassroots, recommendable.
Yes.
What is happening?
So again, I think without authority, that is, okay? Because I don't have like superior authority to speak on what exactly happened in the cabinet. I want to call it.
But you are the voice.
Yes.
Tell me the voice. Okay.
Yeah. So what we basically do is, again, I believe what is basically missing is a clear communication between the different facets of basketball, which I believe if basically aligned to and streamlined in a certain way, then the voice is going to be basically different. Because if you look at the comparisons between now what you're saying between Kenya and South Sudan, it is quite unfortunate that majority of South Sudanese players who've ended up even playing for the national team, and some of them we played with them in teams together, have now ended up growing into different roles within the federation. So someone like Aru is someone who I played with, you understand? So you see him growing and looking at sports from a different level because they picked what was not working around our basketball and made sure that they just communicated the right way in South Sudan. And with, again, goodwill, that is, they actually moved within a short period of time that we are actually now playing a chasing game. So for me, I think what we basically need to do as a country is get our structures right. That is the most important thing. And that starts with communication, that if we are doing, let's say, league games, at what point are we communicating things around fixtures? Are we changing fixtures the last minute to inconvenience teams, for example? Or are we releasing this thing prior to even the league starting so that teams can basically prepare? And it's all, the entire thing has every stakeholder involved, to the extent that even the player needs to take, I think, some bit of responsibility to demand for more. And
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jamel, I would want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What is happening in the Kenyan basket? Because the grassroots, if you look at the juniors,
Yes,
there's some recommendable job going on there.
Yeah.
From Runda to Kayole, even to Kawangware.
Yes.
Basketball nowadays is not being played to in the kuna zile mtaa unajua kitambo, like Lavington. But nowadays in Kayole, everywhere, people are turning up to watch basketball. But you look at the national image, the national team currently, tuliona juzi timu ilipigwa, and unaangalia mbona tunapigwa. What is happening in terms of structure as a national team, and in terms of what should we do to make sure kama South Sudan inatajwa or even USA inatajwa, tuko hapo kando yao kidogo? It can happen. It's possible.
What I can say, as Wima Sports, we can advise on what can be done is the ability to learn, relearn, and unlearn. Those three things is what I'd advise federations, within basketball and any other federation. The ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. You'll realize, as you say, a lot is happening on the grassroots. The grassroots have been able to learn, unlearn, and relearn each and every time, because sports is dynamic, just as any other sector of profession. IT is dynamic, account is dynamic. It's not the same thing that are happening in each and every of those segments years ago. So in the same measure, sports is a career. It has changed a lot in the last 5 years alone, not even 10. So I'd really urge as federation, to Basketball Federation amongst other stakeholders, have the ability to unlearn, learn, and relearn, because when you do that, then you're able to adjust to the changing times. Those are the things that South Sudanese was able to do amongst other federations that are working well. But as you say, at the grassroots, wamelan, wakan learn, wakarilan, and that's why you see a lot is happening within the streets, within the grassroots level of the game, that needs to now be able to grow on the top tier part of the game.
Currently, the national team, that is Kenya Lionesses, are playing against South Sudan, and they are trailing. This is the third quarter. They are trailing 60-46. What is happening with the national team? What is happening with the Kenya Lionesses? Because we have won only one game, if I'm right, out of 3. Just one.
Yes.
And you look at the squad. You look at the kind of players that we are having. Then when it comes to the performance, let me start.
Okay.
Yes. And it's all about systems that, for me, I think have to be developed. Like, as a country, we need to have a certain style of play that is unique to us. What basically, from being on the sidelines and trying to look at the game from a different perspective, everything you learn is, Kenyans, we don't watch a lot of tape in terms of just scouting and making sure that you are preparing before you go to war. That's basically it. So that doesn't just start with the coaching staff. It starts by even the players themselves. Are they willing to, I'll use Jermaine's word, are they willing to unlearn some of the things that they think they are good at and embrace the new face of basketball? Because unlike many years ago, where basketball was a sport that you could only watch in a certain channel or a certain space, right now you have ability to even get access to training methodologies or these other things. But then again, do we embrace that as the coaching people and translate that to our players? So if a system has been used over and over again and it is not working, the question is, are we looking at the game from the player perspective as a coach, that you are actually playing the game with your team in the court, or are you looking at it from a bird's eye view where you're looking at the different pieces? Because when I look at basketball as a game of chess, can these pieces be moved on that chessboard, which is a basketball court, to the extent that it allows those unique talents that each and every player brings to the game to actually shine at the end of the day? Because it's not about the X's and O's at the end of the day. It's about those small things that I think as coaches in Kenya, we need to start looking at keenly. Forgoing practice sessions and just looking at tape, for example. And currently there are teams that are actually embracing that. They are scouting, they are going out there and looking at tapes. And now even independent individuals are coming to the games and recording aspects of the game which can actually form parts of the tapes. But the question I'm asking myself, because I no longer find myself in Nyayo most of the time, are my fellow coaches.
Why?
Ulichoka
na game ama?
No, sikuchoka. No, sikuchoka.
Unaona unasema hii baki ya Kenya, siendi kuona bana.
No, sikuchoka, but in fact, now I think basketball is picking up in terms of how fans are viewing the game from the different, and that actually brings back the fun into the play. You understand? So if I have fans if Jermaine is the fan, I know Jermaine knows how I play, so I may not go into my bag and bring something cool for Jermaine to see. But if I have different people watching the game and they're always constantly there, then you see now the game starting to evolve. And other leagues, what you're saying, Mtaani, is actually influencing people to now go see those kids who are playing in those areas and they're playing again a game in Nyayo, they're actually transitioning into that space to watch. But again, it still goes back to how do we prepare? The preparation is the end game for me. If we take, let's say, a month to prepare for an event or a game or a tournament, it is not fair even for the player themselves, because the body will not, Jermaine will tell you, the body will not be ready for that tournament. Even if I've been playing for an entire year, it won't work. You understand? And things around altitude, around all those changes, these are things coaches need to start looking at deeply and understanding the physiology around each and every individual player and making them play to their strengths. And you can only learn that via watching tapes and going over and over again, even from practice sessions. Yeah.
Jermaine, Kenya trailing right now, 63-48. We are behind. Third quarter. What is happening? What should we change?
As a sports person, there's always winning and losing. Yeah. And sometimes, how do we take a loss? Sometimes that matters if you'll win tomorrow. Because as I say, sports is a process and it takes progression of doing the right thing constantly to achieve the bigger result or the end result or the end goal. So what I can say to that is, okay, we are trailing or we've lost, we've only won one game. But from this tournament, what are we learning? How can we come up better in the next tournament, aligned to what Bales has just said in regards to preparation, in regards to how to prepare and see the game. So those are the things, we'd task our coach to do. Then also, let's see the squad, the squad that was sent out, Sometimes within the national team, they're generational. It's a generation. You realize that some generation is going out, another one is going in.
The same players some of them I used to see them.
It's a bit of a mixture for this one. It's different, and kudos to the coach and those who selected the team, giving a new crop of players that exposure, who maybe are not yet still getting used to that environment. What comes into play, the mental health coach. Are they mentally ready for that level? Were they prepared? Preparation. Yeah. So what I can say is let's support the ladies. Let's see how they push strong for this tournament. But let's task the coaching staff. Let's task the federation to ensure that we don't fall in the same place. Let's learn. Let's progress. Let's get better by achieving all these things that are readily available now within the University of YouTube.
Yeah. Now let's move on to something like infrastructure.
Yes.
the Kenya Basketball Federation have a basketball court, arena that they can call their own? Because sometimes the Premier League matches have to be moved to USIU in any open ground.
Yeah.
No, I would say it's not favorable for basketball. Though in Africa we can do it.
Yeah.
In terms of infrastructure, we are lucky, we are behind, right?
Yeah.
Ndio tumejenga court mtaani. It's good for developing basketball.
Yeah.
But up there when it comes to the Premier League, these players sometime they will go to play, they will again wataenda kucheza somewhere outside the country. Mtu labda hajaicheza inside an arena. He's now amepatana na arena, it's becoming hard for him. Talk about the infrastructure.
And again, just a big shout out to the different investors who are setting up those courts in pale kwa mtaa. And it's something that is actually putting pressure, I think, to every stakeholder in basketball. And now I think questions are being asked around what is favorable for basketball as a sport in the country. And I think when we get to that spot where now people are asking, and now question that, like for example, you're raising, like, why are we going to play out at USIU, and yet we have Nyayo, we have Kasarani, which are readily available if the federation actually reaches
Sometimes volleyball in our box out. Volleyball having their
some of us suffered those kind of events, like you were preparing to go play in Nyayo, then you end up playing on an outdoor court. But then again, that basically calls to, again, how serious are we holding the federation actually accountable? As the key stakeholder, who's the player, you understand? Because I've never seen a situation where players have actually demanded that we only are going to play in a certain space. I remember there's a time when, I think in the NBA, when the AC was not working in one of the arenas, and there was a whole hula baloo, and it caused a lot of raffle around all these other things. The question is, can we have independent minds in basketball, you understand? So that we are not just looking at this thing as bakeni fun, like I'm just going because it's a weekend, I'm going to do this. Let's just look at it as a job. What Jermaine is saying, it's a career for me. And it's a short period of time. You cannot play basketball when we are not blessed like LeBron, I want to say. Maybe some of us may play till 40, 45, but we're not playing at that high level, even where we are now. So the question is, as the key stakeholder, because without me as the player, the game cannot be played. The question is, are we holding our coaches, our team managers accountable and asking them that if this is the situation that you want me to go play in, and looking at all these other things, there's another box down there that we don't want to open yet. If we're not looking at this thing in a certain way, are we basically putting me at a place where I can be able to excel? Am I prone to injuries in this court? And why do you want me to play there more? Because it's a hard court, your knees are getting messed up and all these other things. So I think infrastructure-wise, there are a lot of well-wishers out here. As I said, is KBF willing to just extend that arm and say, we are struggling, can we have help? That's how I think about it.
Yeah. Welcome on board. Jermaine,
yes.
The NBA, now they have their office in Nairobi, in Kenya. And few months ago, we saw them even visiting our very own president, William Ruto. Them being the country, or the office being the country, what does it mean to the Kenyan basketball?
I mean, it's huge. It's huge. And, these guys make strategic moves and calculated moves based on data and research. And just to let us know, based on there's a data that's out there in the internet, between 2050 and 2060, the youth population of the world, Africa will be leading with 60%. The whole of Africa, 60% will be dominating with the youthful population. So that means only then the rest of the continents will be sharing 40% of the youth. So I'm not saying that this is what pegged NBA to come to Kenya, but I'm saying that what it will mean is super huge. But again, back to unlearning, relearning, and learning, as Kenyan, that young athlete, that 17-year-old basketballer, that 16-year-old, 12-year-old basketballer, are you able to see what are the opportunities that this office is bringing in regards to clinics, in regards to opportunities to even play now with the Basketball Africa League that is a partnership between NBA and FIBA? Are you able to see these opportunities and start preparing for them? Just as Bales Kosiga was saying here, are we able to read? Do we have that foresight? One, as an athlete; two, as coaches; three, as federation and stakeholders of the game. If we see that foresight, then indeed we'll get to utilize this opportunity that NBA has set up office in Nairobi. We've seen how Rwanda has done well with utilizing that opportunity. Yeah. So it's just us to be able to have the foresight, learn what are the opportunities, and plug into it, because they are super huge. There's potential for us having a Kenyan in the NBA if we see the opportunities and take hold of them and prepare athletes for the NBA. Why not?
Last season, I saw the street basketball having multiple sponsors coming through. Yeah. I don't want to mention them, but more than 3. Yeah. But then we look at the Kenya Basketball League, the top flight basketball, the top flight league, no sponsors.
Again, it just goes back to the planning, because as a sponsor, let's say if RRBO would want to sponsor maybe a team, for example, I just basically want to see key things. For example, is there consistency in terms of the planning? Are my league matches scheduled at times that are not going to be changed by a phone call, you understand? Or an email that hits your inbox at around 9 p.m. and you're on a Thursday and the game was slated for maybe on a Saturday morning. So such kind of things are detractors for me towards sponsors just coming in and looking at this thing holistically in terms of value for what they really want to achieve with that kind of extension of goodwill to the league. So the comparison actually, as Jermaine said, if the league itself, the basketball federation can just take a step back and look at what is successful pale mtaani, you understand? Yeah. And these are people who are basically, and it brings up a lot of dynamics in terms of, do we have managers managing the game that we love, you understand? Or we have people who are managers in words, but they really don't know actually where to go when things actually hit the fan, you understand? So that is what basically comes out every single time, because there were times where when we had sponsors in the league, went down the drain. We don't know exactly what really happened, but it is an entire box that I hope one day is going to be closed on, because for me, I feel we cannot move on until that box is basically cleared off the table. So for sponsors to come back in, there's a lot that needs to be done by the federation itself to actually look at some of the things that are not making this thing work for them.
Basketball development conversation is a conversation that we can have more than 10 hours, even every day.
True. Yeah.
I want us to wrap up, and I'll begin with Jermaine. In terms of technology at Wima Sport, what are you guys doing so special to make sure this, or rather Wima Sport, is so unique? And me as a basketballer, I look up to you guys.
So in terms of tech, tech covers all the way to production, because production works with tech. So we look at, under tech, we are looking at foresight, our long-term game. We'd like to do showcase production of live games, live streams, of sports events, of sport games. Those are our long-term game. But currently, we are telling stories in a huge way, in terms of sports documentaries, in terms of interviews, in terms of workshops. I mean, we've seen what the rugby team was able to do, and we've been able to showcase a mini documentary of what Asati and his group has been able to do with that. So we tell stories with tech, we tell stories through production, which is still under tech. And there's one workshop that we are working on, I won't say much about it right now, but there's a workshop on data science and sports science, data analytics, which is super huge, that we really don't do much of it, not only in basketball, but across all sports in Kenya. Because NBA comes, they need statistics. Do we have that data? You know? So those are the areas that we are looking to work on. And this year, stay tuned, viewers, across our socials. We are having a great workshop coming up for sports science and data analytics.
For less than 1 minute,
Yes.
Runda Ridge Basketball Academy.
Yes.
Give us something before we close it.
Yeah, basically, mine goes to the parents, because we are seeing a crop of parents who are actually keen on having their kids out there enjoying different sports, different games. And that is an asset that cannot go unchecked. So at the end of the day, our request to the parents is not to give up by looking at some of the mishaps that are happening in the federation. Is that, can they take that leap of faith and allow their kids to learn the game? And at Runda Ridge, what we are keen on as an academy is, are we building a crop of players that can actually look at the game in a professional way and demand for what is rightfully for them? This includes contracts, it includes insurance, it includes all these other things that has basically been something that has been overlooked. And we're actually teaching this from a young age, that as you intend to go professional, that is where you're supposed to end up, and that is where you get quality.
All right, thank you so much, guys, for turning.
If I can,
10 seconds.
10 seconds. If I can, yes. If I can only say one thing is, let's change our mindset a little bit. Let's shift it a little bit on wanting to rack up everything, and think of, we all win, and all these resources and everything is available for all of us. There's no need of me being in office, if I'm in office as a stakeholder, that I'm only thinking and pursuing for my own individual rights at that moment. But let's change our mindset towards, we all win, it's all available for all of us, and these resources cannot be depleted. Let's work together as a team.
All right, let's work together as a team. We were discussing matters basketball, and currently the national team is playing in the Afro basketball qualifiers. They are trailing, or rather they are behind. They are playing against South Sudan, and South Sudan is leading 70 to 57. It's the fourth quarter, or rather 5 minutes inside fourth quarter, or last quarter of the hour. Ndio umeiona kwa screen yako. Those are the results that we are seeing. It's a third place game, or rather third place game, and South Sudan wanapiga Kenya. We are going to take a short break, but don't go away, because we are going to come again with matters football. The Sun Manchester City against Lorient. Manchester City have registered a 2-1 win. They have been forced to come from behind. Pep Guardiola, kichwa nywele inapotea. Let's take a short break.